Okay, we've got our floor space cleared out. We're going to go ahead and mark our locations of our fixtures on the floor. The floor is nice, straight, flat, easy to mark. We're not going to be holding our tape measures up in the ceiling. And I've got a little trick I'm going to show you for putting our fixtures up. First of all, we already know what our dimensions are going to be. Pretty much 54 off the corners. So we're going to start over here. I'm going to measure out 54 inches. Got our first one. You know, this works out pretty good actually, because these cans, not only are they going to line up pretty much on the windows, but they're going to more or less line up on the doors pretty good. So I'm pretty pleased with the way this worked out. Okay, so we've got our fixtures laid out. Now we're going to go ahead and use a little laser tool to point out where they're actually going to be on the ceiling. I think you know what a plumb bob is. You hang a weight from a string, locate your spot, point it to the position that you want it to be on the floor. This is very similar. It's just that we're going to set it on the floor. It's going to point straight up. Looks just like a plumb bob, except it's got a little laser light in it. So we'll set our little balance beam right over our mark. Rental. You know, as I mentioned before, you might be able to borrow one from your local tool lending library. I would highly recommend that you try that first because you could save a lot of money in rentals. It's probably not that expensive an item. You could probably buy one, and your home improvement store, if they have a rental section, very well may rent one of these. Pretty much just looks like a plumb bob. Does the same thing, there's just no string attached to it. Right now I'm just making sure that the floor is level enough that the unit itself is actually balancing on its little point. And that looks good. So now we're going to go ahead and place our fixture. Okay, basically what I'm doing right now is I'm just locating my fixture. The way I'm holding the fixture right now, the light, my laser beam's not shining right on my light, but I can center my light up. I can see right where it's got to go. And that is right where I want my fixture. So I'm going to go ahead. It's got little stoppers on the bottom right here. So make sure those are all the way up. Set my nails. Check my center again. Looking good. Okay. On time, on budget, and on center. Okay, here's number 2. It's going to go up fast. Nothing particular about this except to get our alignment. I'm going to be going right up against this stud. My marker's right on. We're good. Go. I'm going to nail it in. All right. Sweet. Okay, third one down, right on the money. Going to the next one. All right, this is the last one going up. Okay, cans are up, and it's time to pull some wires. You might note that I'm using these little orange wire nuts. These are rated for one number 16 and one number 14. I can't use them if I'm putting two 14s together. Okay, cover on just like in the demo. Boom, done. On to the next one. You'll notice I've got a nice little piece of slack in the wire here. I don't want it to be too tight coming up, and I'm entering the fixture in a nice round curve, nice piece of straight wire. It's right in the connector there. It's grabbed nice and tight. I'm stapled nearby. Not too tight. I don't want to ruin the wire, but yet I want to be tight enough to hold the wire in place. So if I needed to adjust the light a little bit, I've got a little bit of slack. Good to go. We're going to move on to the next light. So the stapling needs to be done every 4 feet. So I'm probably going to have to go back in between these and add another staple. We can run the wires on the surface of the trusses here as long as the clearance is not more than 2.5 feet. You might want to check your local jurisdiction to make sure that's the case. It is possible they could require that you put a runner or some protection across this. Again, be careful not to overdrive the staples when you're stapling because you will wreck the wire. Okay, as you can see, I'm cutting this wire using this knife. I'm really careful that if you notice I'm cutting away from myself like that, first of all. Number two, I'm drawing my hand along when I cut with the knife. I'm not cutting past my hand. So when I do this, I'm kind of pinching the wire with my fingers, and as I draw down, it's actually bringing my hand with it. So I'm placing it, I'm drawing down, and then actually I'm going underneath and I'm holding it, but I never am going to cut past my hand. I'm always going to move my hand with it. You saw how I just slipped off like that? But the hand that I'm using to hold it is above, and I'm just moving down close to it to get that piece cut. So I always keep my hand away from my knife. Again, if you're a homeowner and you're not doing this all the time, you might want to use a Romex stripper. Right there, goes into the little hole. Drop the cover in there, get the tongue in, and it's just a pop fit. Got a nice curve going into the box, there's a little curve here going into the box. You can see things look pretty clean. For my own purposes, when I am doing a two-gang box like this, I try and bring my power into the most left side. So even if I haven't marked it, I know that my left power is always going to be on that side. Lots of times I'll take a marker or something like that and I'll actually mark the wire so when I go back to detail it later on, I'll know what it is. But I just have some general rules so that I know what's going on. Then I try and do my lights in order. Like in this case, we have 2 switches, and the first switch is going to be the recessed lights because those are going to be the first lights that you want to turn in. The second switch is going to be the plugs on the wall by the bed there. So I'll already know. I'll place my wires in that order. So this wire is going to go on the far right side because I know that I want it to be the first switch coming in. So today I just wanted to show you that I've gone ahead and installed the safety handle on this whole hog. This is a pretty tough machine. It can get away from you. When some parts of these get away from you and it hits you, it's going to break something, going to hurt something, or knock you out. So having the safety handle is definitely recommended. We're not going to be drilling through the header here because we would be drilling through a strong wall. Strong wall would be a trade name for a shear strength type wall. So we've got a lot of strength in this particular side and in the other side, and that is required because of the door opening. So we're not going to drill through it. We're just going to staple onto it. This is going to get furred out for some shelving anyway, so this will actually be contained in a covered wall. Unlike a lot of electricians, I like to try and get my wires straight, kind of like I was doing framing or something. It just looks better, feels better. The inspectors like it better. You know, particularly if you're a homeowner. If you're a homeowner and you're working with an inspector, the inspector's going to, unfortunately, he's going to be biased against you because you're a homeowner and doesn't think you know what you're doing. If you make your work look neat, I mean, really make it look neat. When he comes in and he sees it, if he sees something that he doesn't like, he'll speak to you more as a professional, and he'll tell you, hey, you know, here's something you missed here, but you know, your work looks good. It will get you someplace every single time. Doing your work nice and clean, making your wires straight will make a big difference on how the inspector approves your work. Should have had you get some more staples.
You want the box that I have?
I don't want to have to drive those in. So, how much do we want to stick downstairs of this wire? Or how much do we have left? Oh, probably about that much. Is that going to be enough to get you where you need to go?
We can always pick.
All right, we're ready to start running the circuit that's just for the fireplace. As you know, the fireplace is a motor. Motor appliances require a dedicated circuit. Even though it's not going to pull that much amperage, 2 or 3 amps at the most probably, we still need to use a minimum 15 amp circuit. So we're pulling our 14-2 Romex. This is going to go all the way back to the main panel through our point of entry down there. We're just going to start out, pull over the top of the joist, get this stapled down, run over to a temporary J-box that we've set over here for the circuit, and we'll move it around probably as we get our fireplace installed. So let's go ahead and pull wire. So we're going to use a 20 amp wire. You can tell this yellow wire. This wire is a 20 amp wire. It's 12 gauge. Your 14 gauge wire is good for 15 amps. And we're doing this for the fireplace. We're not sure what size fireplace is going to go in there, and we just want to have everything, all the power that we may need. Maybe it's got a little preheater, large fans, large igniter. There's a lot of things it could have, a lot of components or add-ons that it may have that we might really want this for. So rather than have to tear up the walls later on, we're going to put it in now. Okay, so basically I'm pulling that wire down the back side. I'm going to bring it through our entry point feeder. I'm going to take it down through our clips, down through the entry point through the beam, and we'll just put all the extra wire down below. It'll just mean it'll be able to run a lot farther before they have to splice it. And this end is kind of jagged. I'm going to cut it off before I get cut on it. issue. We've got these real wide clusters of studs and blocks. And so, well, jacks actually. We had 2 of those, and there was no real easy way to get through them without just causing major damage to them. So the easiest way to do it was to go back this way. I had a smaller section right here to go through, up over the top and down into that box, and then back to the main power source. When you're running wire, pretty much you have to adapt to the situation. You've got too many studs, you've got too thick a blocking, something like that. You know, the wire really doesn't care where it runs. You just want to run it neatly so that the inspector's going to like it and so that it doesn't get damaged. So this is just an easy way to do it. Save time, save labor. A little bit of wire doesn't cost very much compared to the labor of spending a lot of time drilling through. Basically, just adapt to the situation. What we're doing, I don't know if you remember how our drawing went, but pretty much what we do is we're tying everything together. Everything, the lighting and the switches and the box is in here except for the dedicated circuit for the media and the dedicated circuit for the furnace are all going to be on one of those AFCI breakers, which is your arc fault circuit interrupter. So our power is going to be coming from our main point of entry down here. It's going to come up to this junction box on the floor, and it's going to go 2 different directions. One direction, it's going to head over to our boxes. Our boxes on this side are switch for the outside light, and it's going to head over to the box on this side for the switches for the outside light on this side, and that's going to continue to the plugs on this side here. So basically, pretty much all of the boxes in this area are all going to tie together, and they're going to be all tied together with a power wire. So there's no real need for us to run those boxes as a home run to the main point of entry, because it's all going to come from the main line that we send down through the point of entry to pick up the power, to pick up the arc fault breaker, the arc fault circuit interrupter, to this location. So as I was telling you, from the other side on this box, my power in is always going to be on the far left. My power out is just going to be the very next wire, and then my switch legs will go from there. the same drill as the light fixtures. I've got 3 wires here. 2 of them are going to move on. One is the line, one is the load, and the other one is just going to go to the outlet. You'll see in a moment here, I'll have 3 wires, 1 ground, 1 neutral, and 1 hot, just to go to the outlet. You actually could wire through the outlet. Outlets do have 4 points or 6 points of contact on them, but it's not a very good way to do it, actually. It's not good to wire through the outlets. Much better to do a pigtail where the power comes into the wire nut and out into the next outlet. It's stronger, safer, definitely the way to do it. So we're done detailing. We've gotten everything detailed the way it should be according to the National Electric Code, also based on the codes in your particular area because they do supersede. What you want to do probably is wait a day at least before you call your inspector. Possibly make yourself a little drawing, a little schematic, where your wires are going, how you detailed stuff, how your lights were hooked up, how your plugs are hooked up, where your power is going, just to make sure you're really clear on what's going to happen when you go ahead and turn your power on. You'll have a lot less mistakes that way. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, go to your home improvement center with your drawings and get one of the professionals there to help you, or call an electrician to go over your drawings. Have it ready for him so he already knows what it is that you're doing and what you expect your electrical work to do. And I think you'll probably have a great success with your work. Just make sure to, check it 2 or 3 times and make sure you have exactly what you want and everything is working the way you need to before you have anybody apply any electricity to it.
Home Improvement Camp. Have at it.